Hello and welcome to the Capital Conversation with me, Michael Hayman. Now my guest today is Tania Boler, the CEO and founder of Elvie, a breakthrough business creating a brand new category, Femtech. That means bringing technology to women's health. Elvie is a business that's not only at the forefront of change, but has also caught the attention of investors who are backing the company to the tune of $42 million. Tania, welcome to the show. You've certainly caught the financial attention, but tell us about Femtech. Introduce the category to us.
Thank you, Michael, and great to be here. Femtech, well, when I started Elvie just 5 years ago, the term Femtech did not exist. We were just this kind of niche tech company working on difficult to talk about women's health issues. In the last few years, there's been quite a few startups. And what we're doing is basically looking at neglected issues in women's health. These might be quite normal things that all women go through, but because we live in such a PC society, we often don't talk about. So menstruation, fertility, pregnancy, postnatal, menopause. These are all everyday issues that women face, and technology has a huge potential to solve problems for women.
Right, so people that are sat there saying, well, some of these things are more medical issues, things that you would ordinarily expect to see sort of doctors talking about. You're saying there's a technology solution. Yeah,
and not just for women. I mean, I think we're in the middle of a huge health tech revolution, which means that old model of medical devices that you use in hospitals, that doctors use with patients, is being hugely disrupted, partly because here in the UK, the care burden for hospitals and the NHS is so high that there's less money for prevention and wellness, but also individuals are taking health into their own hands. So here, for example, at Elvie, we launched connected devices for health and wellness. So that means there's a hardware and software component with an app. But our first product deals with pelvic floor health. So before Elvie existed, there was this really horrible medical device that women used to have to use in a hospital with a doctor. So we took it from the hospital and moved it into the home.
So tell us, explain what the device does, how it works.
Yeah. So my background is as a public health scientist. So I was very much looking, when I learned about pelvic floor health, which, as like many women, is something I never even knew about until I became pregnant and had a baby. And most women just don't know about this issue, and yet it affects 1 in 3 women. So it's a very important issue which affects many, many women. So according to the NICE guidelines here in the UK, the most effective method is biofeedback. So women lie in a bed in a hospital, they're hooked up to a machine. They have this painful probe that's inserted inside their bodies with electrodes, and then as they exercise, they can see their pelvic floor in motion. So I had the kind of crazy idea of what if we took all this horrible medical device and turned it into a consumer product that women actually wanted and liked to use. So,
and was that the startup idea? Was that
yes.
So you had a kind of an invention, if you like, an idea to actually create something. So tell us about the creation of the business. I mean, sort of let's go back a step in terms of when did you realise you might be an entrepreneur as well as somebody who was committed to health and science and technology?
It's a good question. So it wasn't like I particularly wanted to go into tech or wanted to start a business. I think I just became obsessed with this issue that was facing so many women and was preventable and treatable. And then the more I researched, I realised that tech had the potential to solve a problem for so many women. But I've always been a risk taker. My father was an entrepreneur. As my first investor, Alex Assaley, said, I think a characteristic for entrepreneurs often is naivety.
Naivety.
I think I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what I didn't know. And I
think alongside that is also this slightly hopeful, I guess, character, which is that business can be the tool to make the change.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'd been working in public health. I'd been working in the United Nations and become really frustrated with how slow health innovation is when you're working with the public sector and you're working through research. So I definitely had a really deep understanding that if I could leverage technology and also get consumers to take ownership of that actually the change could be much faster than what happens through typical health systems.
I mean, and in terms of what you've learnt about yourself on that process, I mean, we'll get to the funding a bit later in the interview, but in terms of the actual growth of the entrepreneur, tell me about how you've changed since you've set up the business.
Well, I mean, completely changed. It's been the most amazing, exhilarating experience, so many highs and lows. But, I think you push yourself to the limits in terms of things that you didn't even know that you would need to do. I think for me, actually, one of the key things is, as an entrepreneur, also, you do have to go out and raise money. You have to learn how to pitch ideas, obviously learn the business fundamentals. I think the business side is actually quite straightforward. I mean,
well, you said you have to learn not to care too much about rejection. Keep on going.
Yes, I mean, to be honest, and I look back, I think I was just so completely laser-eyed focused on this is an important issue, and I know we can help a lot of people. That when a lot of people, and it was a lot of, at the beginning, the vast majority of people we spoke to thought we were crazy, as in, this is an issue, it's very taboo, nobody's going to talk about it, you're in hardware, it's a difficult proposition. And I just felt, you know, they're wrong, and I knew that if we could just get the product out to women.
I mean, and when you think about that sort of health taboo, that health discrimination, the author Caroline Criado Perez, who you're in her book, she says that healthcare systematically discriminates against women. I mean, is that the nature of the problem that you're trying to solve, do you think? Absolutely.
Women have been left behind by both healthcare and by technology, which is actually why it's a huge opportunity. So if you take the first, healthcare, less than 4% of R&D research within healthcare focuses on women's health issues. If you take technology, I think the female consumer of technology has been largely overlooked, sort of assuming that if we want to adapt something for the female consumer, we maybe make it pink or turn it into a piece of jewellery. And actually it's a huge opportunity. So the female consumer of tech is responsible for more than...
Do you think tech and business haven't taken women seriously in this?
Absolutely. I mean, but now they're waking up to it. You know, that's why there is this kind of excitement around Femtech. That's why we're seeing more money going into the sector.
Yeah. I mean, interesting. I read on your website, we approach problems as women and solve them as engineers, scientists, and designers. In terms of what that then gives you as an output, as a business, I mean, what's the, I guess, the critical difference that kind of formula delivers for you as a business?
Well, as I said, because I think the female consumer technology has been ignored. So there's been assumptions sometimes that she's not the early and avid adopter of great design and technology, and I think we're proving people wrong with that. So what we've done, our team, so Alex Asali, who I brought in as an investor and then a co-founder, he started Jawbone, a premium consumer electronics company. Our engineers are from Dyson, we have people from Apple. And I think when you have people from strong consumer brands, and they're looking at taboo health issues, that's when the magic comes together, because you're able to not only create products that individuals like to use, but you can also start changing the language around it.
Because, I mean, it feels like you're at such an interesting sort of juncture here, because on the one hand, you're building a business that's selling things, delivering solutions, but also you're a campaigner here in terms of a change in attitude, a change in conditions. I mean, so when you think about yourself, entrepreneur, technologist, scientist in the background, campaigner, what's the label that you feel most at home with?
I think problem solver.
Problem solver, none of the above.
I like to be a contrarian, that's probably the best label. I mean, I think Richard Branson says, every great entrepreneur, you're always trying to solve problems. You want to change the world. But you're absolutely right, there's a campaign aspect and there's a technology side. But the campaign side feeds into the business side, because whenever you launch a new product category, then you have to have demand generation. And when you're working on neglected issues in health, you have to have that campaign aspect. We launched, really bold marketing campaigns to start bringing out issues like breastfeeding in public, and we get people talking about it more, and obviously there's a win-win in terms of both the brand and uptake of your product.
Do you think that a good business needs a good society for it to grow? I mean, I'm just thinking about this in terms of, a lot of what this is about those attitude changes, and really, I guess, an answer to that question, and also what happens next.
Yeah. So you mean, in terms of being mission-driven?
So in terms of actually the marketplace, in terms of actually to what degree do you have to have attitudes on your side for a business like yours to flourish?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I wish I could say that, yes, all businesses need to have that societal aspect too, but obviously a lot of them don't. But I think this is very much the future, and I think what we're showing with Elvie is that you can have positive impact and have scale at the same time.
But the thing I was thinking about when I made that point was that when you first launched, I mean, in your words, you said people would start sniggering about the business. So, I think, give us a sense of, I guess, that journey in terms of what that felt like and where you're trying to get to.
Yeah. Our issue, so women's health issues are so taboo, and that's why you're absolutely right, you have to have that campaigning aspect to it, because these are shameful, negative experiences. So how can we change shameful, negative experiences into positive, shareable ones? And we do that both through our technology, by making exercising your pelvic floor or breast pumping, whatever it is that women are going through, making it positive. And then they start talking to each other and they start sharing. So it's really a key part of it.
So is that, I mean, in terms of your consumers, I mean, do they self-identify with the brand and its values as much as the products?
Yeah, and that has been the laser eye focus, and just focusing on the consumer and not worrying about those who might be sniggering, because we're proving them wrong.
I mean, do you have to take the battle to those people? I mean, do you see those as, because presumably that's, you know, some of the people that you might need to interact with as financiers, other sorts of audiences?
Yeah, and I'm saying this now, the position of having raised the largest ever Femtech investment at $42 million, so I can talk more openly about some of the difficulties we had at the beginning. But I think people do self-select in at the beginning when we're doing angel investment. You know, people is mostly male investors, but if they're not interested in women's health, they wouldn't take a meeting with us in the first place. But the good thing is that there's a lot of investors out there, including men, who understand that this is an issue for many women out there.
Great. Now, we're going to come back and talk about the financing and that $42 million investment raise that you went through. And it's time for a short break. Now, show me the money was the shout out from Jerry Maguire. And when we come back, we're going to ask Tania to show us the secrets of raising that money to build a business fit for the future. We'll see you in a moment. Welcome back. My guest today is Elvie founder and CEO, Tania Boler. Tania, welcome back. Now, when we broke, we were just sort of touching on the fact that you've raised $42 million, the largest fundraise in the Femtech sector. Put that in context for us in terms of why you went for that amount of money and what that's going to enable you to do.
Yeah, it's the largest ever Femtech raise, which I think is really important for two reasons. One, because it shows that investors are really taking this Femtech category, i.e. women's health technology, seriously. They've woken up to the opportunity. And second, I think it also shows how the UK is still very much a global player. You know, that raise is bigger than anything's happened in the US or elsewhere in Europe. In terms of what has it meant for us as a company, I mean, it's incredible investment and allowed us to move from a team of 35 people up to 80. But more importantly, we're really expanding both market access for our products and also on R&D lines.
I mean, you spoke about this being a huge learning curve when you were out there pitching. And of course, it comes on the back of things like the Rose report, Alison Rose, who wrote about the fact that under 1% of venture capital funding goes to female-led businesses. I mean, in terms of how you broke the mould, how you sort of led the way in that. I mean, what did you learn about yourself in the process?
I think British women are at a double disadvantage when it comes to fundraising. I think particularly here in the UK, we're very understated in our mannerisms, in our humour, and also women often need to lean in. So it is about that confidence, because ultimately when you're pitching, you're really selling your vision and selling your company.
Do you think, I mean, is that, because a lot of female entrepreneurs I've interviewed will say, well, actually, you could actually turn that around and say, well, actually, it's because the investors just don't know how to ask the right questions. They don't see the magic. They're used to some of the overinflated claims, perhaps, of other entrepreneurs, whereas they're not actually seeing the magic of these businesses. Do you think it is just about more confidence to get your message out there, or do you think the investment community's got to change as well?
There are obviously biases in the investment community, but I also think, I mean, I'm an optimist, I'm an entrepreneur. There's never been a better time to be a female entrepreneur. I think we also need to increase the funnel of companies that are coming through that investment pipeline. We need more female entrepreneurs, and that is around building confidence and skills amongst the female entrepreneur network.
I mean, putting it in perspective, I mean, there was a piece in the Standard that talked about dual funding a vaping startup, which has attracted more capital than the whole of Femtech as a category. In terms of your reaction to that kind of stat, I mean, does that kind of give you a sense of, well, that's the mountain to climb and we're on it? Or does that make you think, you know, people have got to get their priorities straight?
A bit of both, I'd say. I mean, obviously, I think more money should be coming to Femtech. Hopefully, Elvie is an example of how that is happening. There's silly money going to a lot of different businesses, and obviously there's a lot of money in vaping. I personally, from a public health perspective, would not be getting involved in vaping. But we are climbing that mountain and we are proving everybody wrong. You know, I'm the kind of person where I think for Elvie, there's certain milestones that you need to hit to raise certain, for example, institution funding. And I think probably our milestones were slightly higher, partly because we're hardware, partly because we're intimate products, partly because we're on issues that nobody wants to talk about. And I think we in the team, we just stay focused and we make sure that we go way above and beyond those milestones.
I mean, a lot of investors are talking the talk of profit with purpose. I mean, do you see yourselves in that guide? I'm thinking about people like Larry Fink, the BlackRock chief exec, talking about the social return being one of the categories they're now looking at. I mean, do you recognise that, or is that just a good story, do you think?
No, we absolutely recognise that. Like, I'm very careful about which investors we bring on board. So as well as Octopus, who does a lot of work investing in health and also actually specifically on taboo issues, which is pretty risky. We've also brought an Albright fund, which specifically focuses on female entrepreneurs, and LGT Impact, which is a social impact fund. So I think impact investing is just a really exciting space in the future. And what I hope with Elvie in the future is, yes, we can build a multi-billion-dollar business and do good in the world.
Do you think, I mean, that category of impact investing is often seen as it's niche, it's boutique, it's not yet the mainstream. I mean, do you think that's just going to be what good investment ultimately becomes?
Absolutely. I mean, everything we've done, people thought was niche, right? Everything big and exciting, everything innovative and disruptive at some point is niche.
I mean, for your market then, in terms of how the niche moves to the disruptive makes the change becomes the norm. Give us a sense of where you are on the journey at the moment.
And how big is that opportunity?
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
I mean, look, the female consumer of tech is an enormous opportunity. I know the stats are around $50 billion market for women's health technology, but actually, if you broaden it out, you know, our ambition is to be the first ever women's tech brand. And it's kind of crazy that there's never been a tech brand for women, and it's huge.
So give us a sense of the other things you would then look at in terms of, well, what are the sort of products and services you would...
And just an example, sorry, this, so, you know, women account for 80% of healthcare decision-making in the household, right? So it's a huge space. We're working on 4 products at the moment, which will be coming out in the next 12 months, which none I can talk about.
It's just between us.
No, yeah, just
what are the rough areas?
As I say, it's a big, wide open space. So every issue in womanhood has been neglected, right? So there's been some interest around menstruation. We're starting off right now with first-time mothers, which is a very young demographic. In the US, it's 26-year-old women. Here in the UK, a 30-year-old woman. And it's an important segment because women are going through so much change, which means not only they're open to new behaviours, they're open to new technologies.
Do you think, I mean, and in terms of how prepared the market is, those young mothers, I mean, do they, in terms of how ready they are to look to technology for the solution to some of these issues, I mean, how far along are you on that journey?
But that's a bias that you think that women might not be open to the...
No, it's a question.
Okay, but the thing is, women are so open to it, but that has been a bias from the tech sector that maybe they're not going to appreciate good technology.
I ask it because there are many people that will point to the fact that our brave technologists are running much faster than society can keep up with it on a whole range of different areas. So this is much more about the fact of to what degree does society get ready to use technology to solve its problems.
And what I would say is the female consumer, for us, for Elvie, she has been waiting for solutions to her problems. So I'll give you an example as well. But what's been slower has been the investment side and the male-led tech side. So for our breast pump, we launched the first ever silent wearable breast pump. Before Elvie Pump, women had to use this horrible technology. They're tethered to a wall, it's noisy, it had no innovation for decades. We launched our products into a $2 billion a year category. Within 4 weeks in the UK, in all our retailers, we became #1. We disrupted the incumbents like that. And the same in the US with very little marketing spend. It actually took us by surprise how quick the adoption has been by women.
So if you didn't spend the marketing spend, what was it? Word of mouth? Word
of mouth. Right. Because women have been putting up with bad tech for so long. It's like when you give them something that is an improvement, they will just adopt it really quickly, and they will just, you know, for us actually social has been a huge thing. So again, what we do is we've gone from a negative, shameful experience, breast pumping, I'm embarrassed, 40% of new mothers give up breastfeeding their baby because they're embarrassed to do it in public, to suddenly this product, which is cool, right? We launched a model walking down the catwalk. And if you look at our Instagram feed, women are sharing all the amazing, empowering things they're doing using Elvie Pump. Actually, women running marathons, surgeons performing operations whilst pumping. You know, things that actually for us as the product design team, we never imagined that women would use our products in this way.
So you're an optimist about what technology can achieve. I mean, there's a lot of people that are worried about where technology can, but this is a good example of the positive change.
Absolutely. Technology is so powerful. Obviously, it can do harm, and it too can do incredible great and improve the lives of millions of people.
And when you were working at the United Nations, if we could have got a sort of, you know, magic wand out and said, this is going to be the future for you, that you'd be sat here talking about Femtech as a brand new category, your business, Elvie, how likely would you have sort of put the bet on that a few years ago?
Yeah, I would have never thought that this would happen. Although when I told my closest friends what I was doing, they were like, I never would have thought it, but actually it makes complete sense.
And do you have a sense of the win in terms of ultimately what the mission for this business? I mean, when do you know that your work here is done?
Yeah, I mean, I'm becoming more confident as our ambitions grow. You know, I think a lot of UK startups after post-Series B might be looking for a sale. Those are things I've sort of, you know, considered. But actually, I think the opportunity is really big, and so for that, we've taken really quite patient capital, and we've got a big vision. It's going to take a
I mean, that's interesting. So this is a long-term play for you.
I mean, our ambition is to be a global women's tech brand. I think, you know, first of all, we need to win over first-time mums, and then we need to expand to support women at all life stages. And
so, in terms of building that brand, I mean, just a very last point about doing it from the UK and doing it from Britain. I mean, is this an ambitious enough culture, I guess, in terms of building that world-changing business, in terms of the ability to draw down capital, people, talent, all those sort of factors that create the business?
I mean, there's a lot of capital here in the UK, so I think in terms of capital point of view, I think the UK is a great place to be. But yeah, to build a global company, we need a global team, we need cognitive diversity. So our home markets are UK, US and China. So we're setting up teams in those 3 territories, and we're a very international team. I think for any global business to grow, you need to be international in perspective.
That's it. We're going to have to leave it right there. Thank you so much. What a brilliant sort of journey I think you've been on in building this super business, Elvie. And that's all we have time for. And thanks to my guest, Tania Boler, a pioneering entrepreneur whose mission is to improve women's lives through smarter technology. And alongside that purpose has come the quest to build the profitability of a game-changing business. And if you want to hear more from the disruptors of industries and change makers of our time, join me next time on The Capital Conversation. I'll see you then.